It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full 40. Becky's taken a ripper!
He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
The big arm.
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest from outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Hello and welcome to For the Love of the Game as we head towards the second bye of the season. But before we get there, we have plenty to talk about. Jason Bennett alongside Matty Donald and Brayden May, who teamed up on our SEN Match of the Day coverage on the weekend over at the Snake Pit. How'd you enjoy yourself?
No, thank you, Chase, and hello to everyone tuning in. The dynamic duo teaming up for the first time in 2020.
What was the chemistry like?
Oh, I think we worked flawlessly together. It was a great combination, the two of us.
How did Brayden go? Was this the first game you've done specials on?
I reckon I've done half a game maybe a couple of years ago.
Listen, I thought you were outstanding. What did you make of him?
No, he came across like a seasoned pro. He was great. He had to do it all as well. He was expert comments. He was a boundary rider as well out at the Snake Pit. So, as Hugo will mention, the double invoice. He's got to make sure he cashes that in, Braid. But no, it was a very good debut from him.
How'd you enjoy the experience?
I did, but I learnt one lesson. Don't bring white shoes.
Oh, come on. That's a rookie error. You didn't, did you?
Oh, they were slightly dirty anyway. But it's all for the feel of it. It brought back memories of playing at St Bernard's when I was a kid. It was fantastic. Bit of mud, bit of dirt. It was fantastic. It was a great game of footy too.
We'll get to that one shortly. We're going to kick it off with William Buck Premier Men's as we always do. It was a successful round for both of last year's grand finalists. They recorded crucial Hartford wins heading into the second bye. Old Brighton with a nail-biting win on the road against University Blacks. Now, the Blacks had conquered them in similar circumstances down at Brighton earlier in the season in round 4. Goals were at a premium all afternoon. It was heavy conditions at Melbourne Uni Oval, really muddy down there at the moment. Just 3 goals in the opening term. The Blacks found a couple in a hurry approaching time on. Got out to a 4-point lead at quarter time. And then Dale Bauer's team really took control of the game in the second quarter. They kicked 4 unanswered goals. They headed to the major break with a 27-point lead. And they'd held the Tunners to just 1-5 in the first half, which is their lowest halftime score since they kicked 1-10 in the 2022 grand final loss to St Kevin's. So great defensive performance from Blacks, and they also managed to find 4 unanswered goals in those sort of heavy conditions. That's a good performance. Yeah, no, and we know this with the Uni Blacks, that they match up really well against Old Brighton. We know they've got the ability to do that. So we were following the scores, of course, throughout the afternoon, Brayden and I, and we saw the Blacks build their lead. I don't think it really surprised us that they were able to match up against them so well and build that lead. Did it surprise you that Old Brighton came back? No, not at all. No, that didn't surprise us one little bit. Exactly. The reigning champs adjusted. They found their mojo in the third term. They rocketed back into the game. They kicked the first 4 goals to close within a point at the 17-minute mark. The Blacks then kicked a couple, 2 in 2 minutes, and got it back out to 14 points. And at this point, you're sort of thinking, oh, maybe the Blacks have sort of seen it off and stabilised things. But the Tunners weren't deterred. They kicked 2 more goals in time on, got back within 2 points at the final change. In total, it was an outstanding 6-2 third quarter from the Tunners after the Blacks had done a similar sort of thing in the second quarter. 10 minutes gone in the final term. There was 20 minutes remaining. The Blacks have been highly competitive. They kicked the first goal through Max Gray, got out to an 11-point lead, and then back-to-back strikes within 2.5 minutes from Thomas and Ag saw the Tunners hit the front for the first time since 19-minute mark of the first quarter. So the Tunners were back in front. As I mentioned, 10 minutes gone. Still 20 minutes to play. That last 20 minutes was a mighty struggle in the mud. Both teams threw themselves in. They threw everything at this. Tunners were looking for the sealer. Blacks were looking for the go-ahead goal to get back in front. Both teams' defences just were magnificent, stood up under enormous pressure. The Blacks had a few glimmers of opportunity, just couldn't quite string together the chain to find that match winner, and the final siren eventually sounded. It was a combination of exhaustion and relief for Old Brighton. They just got over the line. They hung on for a gritty and muddy 3-point win, gives them a 2-game buffer inside the top 4, keeps them in the race for the top 2, and that's important. After the bye, they'll host the resurgent Cardinals in a mouth-watering clash, with opportunities then to make up ground on the Blues and Zabs as well on the horizon. Just one of those games you've just got to find a way to win. And conversely for the Blacks, another lost opportunity for them. It's sort of been the story of their season. They've got a 3-8 record. 4 of those losses have been by under 3 goals, though. So of their 8 losses, 4 of them, they've been right in the game. And their last 3 defeats have been 17 points to Zabs, 14 points to the Blues, and 3 points to the Tunners. So 3 of the very best teams in the competition. You mentioned it earlier, the Blacks, good enough to hang in for a bit, but they just can't quite find a way to get it done across 4 quarters.
Yeah, and it must be a little frustrating for Coach Dale Bauer and his men to be that close, but yet so far away that they're just not getting it done. He said post-match that he summed it up. in your notes, as you said, Jace, our first half was very good, but our second half we fell away. Full credit to Brighton, who just played better footy in the second half as well.
Yeah, just found a way to get it done. And the Blacks, they remain above the drop zone on percentage alone. They're 5.18% ahead of Old Haileybury and now a game behind Old Scotch and Old Trinity in the race to escape relegation. And as we always say, the honourable losses at the end of the day don't mean anything when it comes to the ladder. They can build a 2-game advantage over the Snow Dogs if they can win a critical clash straight after the bye, though. So that's going to be a really important game. And given the road beyond that for them gets considerably tougher, that looms as one of the run home's most pivotal matches in the relegation race. So Blacks have got Bernard's, Caulfield, and then they've got the St Kevin's Old Zabs off on the horizon. So the next couple of games for them off the back of the bye are going to be crucial to just try to solidify their position up out of the drop zone.
Yeah, that Caulfield one as well is going to be absolutely vital. They've got to get 4 points from that one, as well as the Snow Dogs winner. It's got to be one game at a time, but if they can pick up 2 wins in those next 2 games, that's going to go a long way to keeping them alive in Premier Men's. From an Old Brighton perspective, Marcel Bruin, he was just thrilled to get back on the winners list, particularly the way they had to do it and against who they had to do it as well. Strong, organised, determined outfit was what he described the Uni Blacks as. Thought they started okay, but lost the disposal count in the uncontested footy, and it was a really contested game. The conditions at University Oval quite conducive for that now as we hit the winter months. The second half, they had to make a couple of player adjustments, and they were able to take away the Black style of play, the kick mark type of possession chain that they liked to go with. That helped the Tunners wrestle back some control, and a proper arm wrestle that last term was how Marcel Bruin described it, but a huge win for the Tunners in the context of their season.
Massive 4 points, as I mentioned. They play Old Scotch next, then they've got Trinity, and then they've got that Zabs Blues double after that. So again, it's just about banking points, getting yourself into a solid position, trying to maintain that buffer inside the 4 and hope that some of those teams sort of 5th, 6th, 7th drop away and that gap opens even more, because that then buys you a bit of breathing space. If you do happen to drop those games to Zabs and Blues for whatever reason, it's not necessarily going to cost you a spot in the top 4.
No, exactly right. And it's just a matter of who plays who and when you play them and who they've got available as well. At that time of the season, there's so many sides that are on demand at the moment. So if you can snag a win that you're not meant to win on paper, it's going to be all the more important.
St Kevin's banked another 4 premiership points. They outlasted a typically determined St Bernard's at the Snake Pit. The 2 teams kicked 3 goals apiece. It was a bright opening term, gentlemen, but it was the second term that saw the visitors seize the initiative. Scob kicked 4-3-1 behind, got out to 25 points at halftime. Jacob Kuzitsky continuing his white-hot form. He had 5 goals on the board to the major break.
Yeah, he was absolutely outstanding to start this game for St Kevin's. We saw James Stewart do something similar a couple of weeks ago at the Snake Pit. He finished that day with 9, and we thought Kuzitsky was on track to even better that.
10 watch, I think you were calling it.
We went with 10 watch at one point. That's Hugo's term. I've got to give him the credit for that. No, St Kevin's were absolutely outstanding in that second term, and it was credit to the Snow Dogs, though, because they'd actually put up a pretty competitive opening term and took the lead at one point in that first term. But St Kevin's proving why they are one of the contenders for winning the premiership this year, and going to demonstrate again the hard work that's been put into that forward line, the forward line that Anthony Lynch has built down there. It's a really potent one now. And I mean, we sort of saw what it is at its best in that second term. They just looked like scoring every time they went forward.
At this point, you're probably thinking, gee, this could be an absolute one-way traffic from here. But the Snow Dogs, they played some sparkling footy in the third term, Brayden. They got on top around the contest, and then they made the most of their chances. They kicked 5 straight in 12 minutes to get back within 2 points, and suddenly it was game on again.
It was actually a bit of a midfield masterclass. I reckon Big Billy Coates was winning the hitouts, but the sharking ability of you guys like Charlie Vague and then Ben Overman on the centre circle, for those that didn't see the ground, it was very close to the wing on the
they moved it out of the mud pit.
Yes, the half pipe, as Matty called it on commentary, on that side of the ground. And Ben Overman in particular just floated off the back as a cover side winger and just found the footy at will. Him and Tom Jock, that third quarter matchup was one of the great matchups of the season. And yeah, they just got the ball forward. I think it was Luke Delizio kicked a great goal on the run, was it, Matty?
Yeah, a beauty right out of the centre from outside 15. That was what got it back to within a kick. And you think, oh, hang on, for all of St Kevin's dominance, a good 12 minutes here from St Bernard's, and suddenly where the game is up for grabs again. It was an unbelievable run of form from them.
And St Kevin's were their own worst enemy. They were creating their opportunities, couldn't nail their chances. They kicked 1-6 from that point onwards for the rest of the quarter, so they only got out to 14 points at the final change. Obviously, they were getting back on top again in terms of overall momentum, just couldn't finish their work. They kicked the first goal of the last term. Jack Benk kicked it 4 minutes in. But then another 4 consecutive behinds just kept the door open. They struggled to hit the targets. But then Jacob Kuzitsky got a handball over the top in the goal square. A nice end-to-end transition. Got out to 28 points. Mitch Hughes and Ferg McNichol, their milestone men, both got goals in the last quarter, but was basically by that stage all over bar the shouting. St Kevin's 34-point win maintains their one-game lead over Brighton in third spot.
Yeah, and I have to say they thoroughly deserved that one, St Kevin's. When you look at the number of scores, 34-17, you'd think they definitely should have been a lot further in front by the time the final siren sounded. And St Bernard's were good at making the most of their opportunities on the rare occasions they had the game on their terms. And it's quite weird in the end, given that there was only 2 points, as you said, halfway during the third term. And we think St Kevin's should have won by a lot more than what they did. But a really good win from St Kevin's again, and probably the accuracy. It's a couple of weeks in a row they've left a few out on the table, but 4 points for them, a much needed one, and it keeps their top two chances well and truly alive.
Yeah, that improved conversion will certainly please Steve Alessio. It's been one of the issues for Scob. In fact, they've got a great forward line. Their challenge is always getting it in there. They just don't provide enough supply to their key forwards, because they have got a forward line that can kick goals. Jacob Kaczynski's finished with 7 after 8 last week, and his presence just continues to grow week after week. He's looming as a major part of September this year. If he continues in this sort of form, he's going to be very difficult to stop. Mitch Hughes and Ferg McNichol, I mentioned, played their 200th game. Luke Delizio racked up his 150th. 3 wonderful club men for the Snow Dogs, so it was a special day for them. They've got some work to do if they're escape relegation once again, though, Brayden. They arrive at the second bye. They're in last spot, 1 game behind the Blacks and the Bloods. Their next assignment is the Blacks at Melbourne Uni, so that's going to be absolutely critical. If they can get that away win that's eluded them throughout the year, that would draw them level on points with Blacks, and then they play the Bloods in round 14. So at this point, their destiny is still in their own hands, because the teams above them, they're getting to play. Knock them off, they can jump them.
If they can play that type of footy that they played for probably pretty much all of this game, except where they're punished on turnover, they're going to give every side in this division a run for their money for the rest of the season.
What did Steve Alessio make of it? Because there are positives to take out of this performance.
Yeah, there was a lot of positives. He said it was a solid first quarter. He thought their energy levels were down in the second, and that does happen. It's human nature. Drop the head when things weren't going your way, and he was happy with how they readjusted and made themselves dangerous overall. He said some of their decision-making and ball use, just going inside 50, as we just touched on, did let them down. But he said it was still a great day for the footy club. You touched on the milestones, but it was also great. Lockie Gollan, former Adelaide Crow, played his first senior game for the Snow Dogs as well.
His old man was a champion at the Dogs, wasn't he?
He was. It's just a shame for Snow Dog supporters. You're not going to see more of this guy. He was immense. I think he would have been in contention for Skins Player of the Day if they had.
How did they use him?
They used him behind the ball a lot, so he was someone who we thought he might have been someone who spent a bit of time forward, but actually spent most of his game behind the ball. Took a terrific mark in the opening minutes of the match. Took a lot of the kick-ins as well. He and Mitch Hughes shared responsibility with that a bit, but was just so good at quelling a lot of St Kevin's attacks. So they kicked 13 goals. Would have been a lot more if it wasn't for Gallant down back. He was outstanding.
St Kevin's can put their feet up. They can rest a bit easy. They've won 8 of their last 9, have scobbed. They've established themselves as a genuine contender this season. They'll return from the bye, and they'll face 4 teams currently outside the top 4 before meeting Zabs and Blues in the final 3 weeks of the season. So they've got Caulfield, Old Scotch, Blacks and Haileybury in their next 4 games, building up towards playing Zabs and Blues in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, well, that month that will be coming out of the bye with, that's an opportunity for them to consolidate. They're standing inside the top 2, maybe top 4 at least, maybe even inside the top 2.
Yeah.
But that fortnight after is going to be the real litmus test, because against Old Brighton and Old Zabs, they're 0-3 so far this year, St Kevin's. If we want to consider them to be a genuine premiership threat, they've got to be able to beat those teams around them, and that fortnight is a big opportunity for them to do so. It
does feel like they're building week to week, though. They're the team that may be in that top bracket that we're seeing the most growth from. As they just put different pieces together and they've gelled, and their chemistry seems to be elite now. Old Scotch, speaking of teams that are on the rise, they continue their rise up the ladder and win over Old Haileybury. Their 3rd win in 4 matches for the Cardinals. They've jumped a game clear of the drop zone now. The Blues dominated proceedings in the opening term. They had 18 inside 50s to 9. They had 10 shots to 2, the Bloods, but they couldn't finish their work. They kicked 3-8 to 2 behinds, and they were 14 points up, but they could have been a lot further in front than that. The Cardinals then lifted themselves in the second quarter. They hit a lot more targets. They controlled the ball a lot more as a result. They went from a differential in disposal of -16 to +28 in the second term. They kicked the last 6 goals of the first half. They slammed on 7-2 to 2-3, went from 14 points down at quarter time to 15 points up at halftime, and 5 of those 7 second quarter goals came directly from Old Haileybury's turnovers, so they punished the Bloods back the other way. The Cards then kicked again, goals to Angus Jones and Cooper Lean midway through the third term, and when James Tarrant kicked another at the 28-minute mark, suddenly it was out to 27 points. And the early minutes of the final term were then decisive. The Cardinals forward half pressure punished the Bloods. They kicked 3 goals in 4 minutes, effectively put the game to bed in the blink of an eye. Lead got out to 38, and ultimately they pulled away with 6 goals to 2 in the final term to run out 42-point winners. They kicked 17 goals to 7 after quarter time, did the Cardinals. Angus Jones returned from his 3-week hamstring injury. He kicked 4 goals. Fellow Big V reps James Tarrant and Will Clark also amongst the goals. And suddenly, this Cardinals forward line is looking a lot more threatening. They had 13 individual goal scorers. And as we know, with the style of footy they play, that uncontested style, that becomes extremely difficult to defend. You've got goal kickers all over the park.
Yeah, and that's where the emphasis goes nowadays. Gone are the days where we've got, and as much as we love the big bags, it's not about one player kicking all the goals. It's about finding as many different routes to goal as you possibly can these days, and holds you in good stead. And the one thing that I take away from this is the goal kicking. 27 scores to 24 in favour of the Bloods.
Yeah.
Yet it was Old Scotch who come away with a big win. 19 goals, 5. Beautiful goal kicking. It's about as good as you're going to see at this level. So that's just outstanding efficiency from them. And I might just add, Jason, I will get to the later, but I'm just going to say very quietly, Old Scotch are 3 games outside the top 4 now.
Still there.
With the run in. Mathematically, not yet
You're
done.
saying there's a chance then. It is a critical win. Old Scotch have moved a game ahead of the Bloods now. They slide down into the drop zone for the first time this season, do Haileybury. They're down into the bottom 2. The Cards still 3 games behind 4th spot, as Matty mentioned. You don't have to go back too far, though, to realise you cannot write them off. Let's hear from both the coaches. We'll start with Mark Nat from Old Scotch.
Yeah, so after the opening quarter where Old Haileybury dominated the territory, it was great to see. He said it was great to see his players respond with the second quarter that they did. They were getting beaten at the source, but Brodie Easton and Will Townsend were the 2 names that he wanted to draw specific attention to. They turned the tide in the midfield. And Angus Jones was terrific. And we know about Angus Jones. He's had an incredible 12 months. He was very good in the forward half and contributed to them kicking 7 in a row. He was also very pleased with the 13 individual goal scorers. That's a very, very high number indeed. And that they finished the block now with 3 wins of their last 4 as we enter the bye. So they're all of a sudden in pretty decent form, the Cardinals.
And suddenly they basically hit their final series straight after the bye, Brayden, because they face 3 of the current top 4 teams, Old Brighton, Scob and the Blues, coming straight up after the bye. So if Old Scotch are in the form that we're thinking they're building towards, they get to show it over the next few weeks. If they're not, that top 4 suddenly becomes a long way away again.
Yeah, exactly right. And even if they aren't exactly in that form, they're a side you don't want to see with that sort of forward line that we've spoken about. And even if you get a wet day, someone like Angus Jones can bob up. If it's a dry day and it's dry track, James Tarrant, someone can bob up and hurt you that way. It's really exciting for Mark Nutt as well.
It's going to be one of the biggest games of the season. Old Brighton versus Old Scotch straight after the bye, because if Scotch win it, they're back within 2 games of the top 4. If they lose it, they're 4 games behind with 6 to play. It's almost an elimination final for them.
Yeah, no, and grand final rematches always are. And we called these 2 teams earlier in the season. It was a terrific game, that one, and Old Brighton just getting the win, but they certainly were made to earn it. So there'll be a fair bit going on in this game.
The Bloods have now lost 6 of their last 7, Matty. Their bye comes at a critical time for them. Feels like they need to refresh and regroup and reset their season a little bit. Next up, they'll face Old Trinity. They'll start favourites in that, win that, and they'll leapfrog the Tees back out of the drop zone to safety and drop the Tees into the drop zone. And given they'll face all the top 4 teams in the run home to Haileybury, it looms as a vital 4 points, that one. They've got to pinch those 4 points against Trinity.
Yeah, they certainly do. But as Coach Guy Martin touched on, the numbers from this Old Scotch game actually pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, the stats, so many of the stats were in their favour.
So what he notes here is plus 17 in clearances, plus 11 inside 50s, more scoring shots, but just the ability to convert going inside 50 was the difference between the 2 sides. He said it was one of the more frustrating games he's been involved in as coach. He's obviously got a lot of experience and said it was a missed opportunity, but the lesson for the Baby Bloods, as they've been dubbed this season, the biggest difference, the ability to punish mistakes. I think that's what modern footy, AFL, local, your ability to hurt on turnover is the big thing. Old Scotch kicked 15-2 from turnovers.
Yeah, it's a number that's just not sustainable. You can't concede that many goals from turnover.
And it's a matter of these opportunities. If they're getting them within 15, 20 metres of goal, you're going to back them to kick in. But he spoke highly of Brodie Finlay in the ruck, finished with 25 disposals. Brady Seckle, Locke Riley were strong in the contest. Noah Higgins was probably their classiest player all day as well.
Yeah, Brodie Finlay was incredible. His numbers were off the charts. Old Zabs have made it to the second bye at 10-1. after comfortably accounting for Caulfield Grammarians at Glen Huntly Park. The league leaders seized immediately control. They had inside dominance early, 16 clearances to 5 in the opening term, but credit to the Fields. They managed to minimise the impact of that. They stood up defensively really well. They restricted Zabs to 2-5 to 1-3 and just 8 points the difference at quarter time. Zabs then found another gear in the second term. They played incredibly clean football given Melbourne's wintry conditions at the moment. Went at 77% disposal efficiency in the quarter. They kicked 5-3 to 2 behinds, got out to 39 points up at half time. The Fields, as we know, we seem to say this every week, they refused to yield. They dug in. And despite Zab's continued dominance in and around the contest, the hosts got their intercept game going up in that third quarter and actually controlled the territory. They had 17 inside 50s to 9 did Caulfield in that third term, and they got 10 scoring shots of their own. Unfortunately for them, they kicked 4-6, so they didn't get full bang for their buck. They did get it back only marginally because Zabs then going the other way kicked 4 goals from 9 inside 50s themselves. So again, we talk about missed opportunities, and that third quarter was certainly that for Caulfield. So it was still 34 points of difference at three-quarter time for Zabs, and they put their foot down pretty early on. They kicked the first 3 goals of the final term in a 5-minute burst, put the result beyond doubt, and in the end, they posted their 9th straight win, which is Old Zaverian's best winning streak since their brilliant 11-game run to claim the 2013 premiership. So Stavro, 19, 23, 32. Over the weekend, he had 32, 5 tackles, 5 clearances. We know what a great player he is.
Yeah, and we know that this is the sort of thing that we were expecting with the Old Zavs. We've sort of spoken about it for a few weeks, that they started the season with a lot of their stars out. Stavro, Fisher, no Alex Spralia in their ruck to begin the campaign. So we knew that what they had at the start of the season was going to look very different to what they had at the midway point in the season. Well, now that day's arrived. Now all those players are back and they're humming along quite nicely indeed. So this is a bit of a warning for the rest of the competition that the Zavs are fair income in 2026. They're on a red-hot streak in terms of wins. As you say, Jason, they're going to be the team to beat before the season is done.
Yeah, they head into that second bye, leading the field by a game and 23%, so effectively 2 games clear on top. But like all other Premier Men's teams, they've got plenty of speed humps still to negotiate in the run home. That begins with the game of the season to date. Straight after the bye, the top of the table blockbuster against the Blues. What a game that's going to be.
It's an absolute beauty. Both sides should be fresh as well, which makes it even better. It's a game that literally is a toss of the coin, and one that if we get a shootout, we might get some 1990s type footy of 110, 120 apiece, and shape's an absolute beauty. And I think the great thing is Zavs are going to be close to full strength and are getting there. I'd hate to be Dan Donati and his coaching staff. But
I wouldn't mind it. I'd take that over anything else.
Well, it's one of those things. They must have some long Thursday night meetings. But along the way, as you said, you mentioned the word speed humps. No doubt there's going to be a couple more injuries as we go along. But the great thing is some of these guys that are in probably the bottom 6 to bottom 10 of that senior selection group, they've had experience early in the year. So by the time they step in for some of these guys that might need some form or just a rest and recovery, they've got that experience. They know what to expect at this level. And
from a Caulfield perspective, Matty, they've won 4 of their last 6. They'll end the week off in a vastly superior position to where they hit that first bye a while ago. Their revival's been one of the stories of the year, and they're only 2 games out of the top 4 themselves, but they're also only 2 games above the drop zone. They're in that dangerous space right in the middle of the ladder where your season sort of could tilt either way. So there's opportunity and there's danger for Caulfield. They've got a week off. They'll freshen up, and then they'll face the strike power of St Kevin's. Then they've got Blacks, Trinity and Bernard. So it sort of feels like a pivotal month coming up for Caulfield as well. The St Kevin's game will be tough, we know that. But then Blacks, Trinity, Bernards, if you are to play finals footy or at least finish sort of amongst the best of the rest, they're the teams you got to tick those off.
Yeah, so at this point, it sort of depends if your glass half full or glass half empty as to whether you're looking at the top 4 or the bottom 2 from a Fields point of view. That's in Kevin's game, where is going to be hard, and I don't think many would have them as favourites starting with that match. But certainly after that, there's some very winnable games. You've got Uni Blacks, who are in and around that relegation zone, have just not been able to bank the wins. Old Trinity, who came up with them last year in Prem B, and then St Bernards are another team down the lower end of the table too. Some very winnable games after that St Kevin's win.
What did Paul Sadlerley, the Caulfield coach, make of their performance against the league leaders? They were the benchmark. How'd they go?
Yeah, well, he conceded that they were just too strong across every line. Old Zaverians, to be any chance, they had to make the most of the scoring opportunities that they had, and they just weren't able to do that. And a 7-13 scoreline is reflective of that. The scoreboard got away from them last time against the Zavs, but he thought they at least played the game out this time round, and they were able to reduce the scoreboard damage. Although they're going to enjoy the week off because they've got a few casualties that have come out of the Zavs game, so they'll hope to get some players back before they play St Kevin's in a fortnight's time.
You mentioned Dan Donati. What did he have to say?
They were very focused on Caulfield, knowing that they'd been in good form. He was very pleased with their defensive first half performance and just managed to set themselves up with that opportunities in front of goal. And then he said, to Caulfield's credit, they were more attacking in the third quarter and put some scoreboard pressure on, but his side eventually settled. He was pleased with their clearance and contest work, which is pivotal, not just at this time of year, but the best contested possession winning teams and clearances, they win flags.
Yeah, they're a very, very powerful outfit, our Old Zaverians. Lots to still play out, though. The final game of the weekend was a low-scoring affair in an accurate University Blues eventually secured the 4 points over Old Trinity at Daily Oval. They were coached by assistant Jack James. Donald McDonald out for 2 games for a suspension for abusing an umpire, so he was on barbecue duty as the Tees held a slender edge around the contest in the opening term, but has been their challenge for the Tees so much this year. They were unable to translate that into territory and then into scoring opportunities. So the inside 50 count was pretty even. It was 9-8. In terms of the Blues, but the Blues were able to convert more dangerously. They kicked 3-4 to 1-1, led by 15 points at the first change. The arm wrestle then continued in the second quarter. Both teams sought to control the game, again via that uncontested marking style we've talked about this year with Old Trinity. They've used it as a defensive tool. 61 uncontested marks for the quarter, 32 to 29 in favour of Old Trinity. But again, the difference we've spoken about before, Matty, with Old Trinity's uncontested marking game, you've still got to go forward. You can't just chip it around sideways and backwards. And the Blues are more effective at taking territory. So for the same amount of inside uncontested marks, 15 inside 50s to 7 in the second term. Because when the Blues had the uncontested marks, they were going forward. Trinity were going sideways and backwards.
Yeah, and that you're right. That is something that we've touched on a little bit. It's all well and good to actually keep the ball off your opposition because they can't score if they don't have the ball, but you've actually got to be constructive with it when you've got it in hand. You can't just chip it sideways and backwards. You've actually got to take territory. That's something the Tees are trying to get the balance right. They've certainly good enough for keeping the ball off the opposition, but just haven't been able to make the inroads necessary.
So the Blues' inaccuracy continued. They kicked 1-4. They got out to 20 points at half-time. The Tees continued that uncontested marking approach in the third term, but this time it was Old Trinity's inaccuracy. They actually generated the scoring shots. They just couldn't finish. They kicked 4 behinds to 1-1, and it was the Blues by 23 points at the last change. Incredibly, the visitors then kicked 6 points to that end, after Old Trinity had just kicked 4 points to that end. So to that end of the ground, I think the western end of the ground, 2 goals 15 to the western end compared to 6 goals 8 in the other direction. So no one could hit the target at the western end over the weekend.
I feel like there's a saying for bad kicking that Hugo brings up.
I can't remember what it is.
I can't quite put my finger on what it is.
Don't worry about it. The Blues needed to just manage the final term. They were in control, but their inability to find the middle of the goal sort of kept the game open a little bit longer than it needed to be. They kicked another 6 consecutive behinds in 8 minutes before Dom Payman kicked the only goal of the final term. It came for Trinity. Got back to 22 points, but they couldn't turn that 1 goal into 2 or 3, and in the end, it was a 20-point win for the Blues. Their 6th win in a row as well. There's so many teams at the moment in wonderful form. Matt Smith's team has learnt so much, I think it's fair to say, since last year we were bemoaning their nail-biting heartaches in the first half of 2025 that ultimately cost them finals football, those couple of tight losses, the couple of draws that they let slip through their fingers. This time around, they're managing the close ones a lot better. Yeah. They're 12 months on of more experience. And of their last 6 wins, 4 of them have been by 20 points or less. The Bloods by a point, Tunners 19, Blacks 14, Trinity 20. So games that last year could have slipped through their fingers, this year they're managing to just do the right things. A little bit, we talk about Carlton and their turnaround. Carlton are obviously managing the back end of games a lot better. That's been the next step for the Blues in the VAFA as well.
Brad and I sort of talked about this afterwards, that if you want to be a team that's going to be right up there challenging for premierships, you've got to find a way to win these ones ugly. We know about the attacking flair that the Uni Blues possess. Well, they're not going to be able to win by kicking bags of goals every week. Sometimes you've just got to be able to grind out results and earn your 4 points in a bit more of an in and underway. And full credit to them for being able to do that at the weekend. They've managed another 4 points. Again, they were expected to win. Maybe last year they might have got a draw, they might have dropped the game entirely, but picking up another 4 points is going to be really pivotal between now and the end of the season. It'll almost certainly be the difference between the double chance and a semi-final, a first semi-final, or even finals and missing out entirely. So picking up these wins really important.
So they get to the bye comfortably sitting in second spot. They're a game clear of St Kevin's, 1 game behind Old Zabs, but they get the chance to join Old Zabs. We talk about that blockbuster game straight after the week off in round 12. Matty Smith, what did he make of their performance out at Daily Oval?
So he said that his players were fortunate enough to get out of the blocks early and build that critical quarter-time lead, and that sort of set them up for the rest of the game. He said that's something they've been really good at doing over the past month, but really strange game thereafter. They just seemed a little bit off, and while they were always able to keep the Tees at arm's length and maintain a pretty solid lead, they were never really quite able to put them away. The T's made life difficult for them and gave Old Trinity credit for doing that. They were able to get handball chains going up along the ground quite nicely in addition to that uncontested mark style of play that we spoke on earlier. You take the 4 points, but a tough month of footy, so you'll take the wins when you can get them, and just got to be at the very least happy with the fact that they're able to come away with the win.
Jack James, the assistant coach at Old Trinity.
Some fantastic notes here from Jack as well. Real detailed. The key takeaway was they were pleased with the response from the week before, where they felt they lacked the competitive edge that this group has hung their hats on as well. He had shout out for 3 debutants: Will Johnson, Nick Phillips, and Will Spratt. Johnson and Phillips deserve a special mention. They're part of the school program.
Yeah, they played at Trinity College. Yep.
Also the Oakley Chargers, which is great to see. He also touched on key defenders Luke Teal and George Belcher. They competed exceptionally well. Said the ball was coming in really quick, which that's even more credit to the T's defensive group to keep them to 45 points. I know it's 5-15 bad goal kicking, but to stop them creating those chances is fantastic as well. But I think the one thing that I want to touch on quickly with the T's, Dom Payman back in that side is going to make a world of difference. And they might have just fallen into some bad habits without studying the game and chipping. But now that Dom's back, you can just get the ball in there. You know he's going to compete. He's a big fellow. Great to see him back after a bit of a battle with concussion.
Yeah, he's a game changer for them, no question. So let's take a look at the ladder as we hit the second bye, 11 rounds down. You've got Old Zabs who sit 1 game clear. They're 10-1 on 40 points. Uni Blues on 36. But as we mentioned, if the Blues can beat Zabs in round 12, they'll be tied at the top of the table. 1 game further back is St Kevin's on 32. 1 game further back is Old Brighton on 28. That's your top 4. Then it is that 2-game gap to Caulfield Grammarians at 20 points. So Caulfield sitting right there in the middle of the ladder. They've got some very critical games if they're going to stay in touch with that 4. Then at 1 game back is Scotch and Trinity, both on 16. They're a game out of the drop zone. 2 teams on 12 points. Blacks and Haileybury on 12. And then St Bernard's on 8. So right now, the race for relegation, you would think at the moment, is probably between the bottom 5 teams, and the race for the top spot, or for the top 4 rather, is in at least 5 teams, but you can't write off Scotch or Trinity given they're only 3 games behind as well. But everything has to go right. Having said that, it did for Scotch last year.
Yeah, it can. No, so you certainly wouldn't want to write them off.
We'll find out about them straight away, Scotch, won't we? Like they'll either be right in the mix or gone within the next 3 games.
Yeah, we're going to know pretty quickly from there just how close they can run the rest of the top 4. But, I mean, at both ends of the ladder, there's some very tight races going on.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic run home. Now, a tragedy hit Victorian community footy over the weekend. Epping player Nathan Fitzgerald unfortunately lost his life after a tragic football accident in his game over the weekend. I know this means a lot to you in particular, Brayden, but from everyone here in the VAFA community, we send our deepest condolences and our best wishes to Nathan's friends, to his family, to everyone who loved him, everyone involved with him at the football club, players right around that league that are going to be impacted by this. And as I say, you've got sort of first-hand knowledge and first-hand connection to the Epping Football Club. Wonderful footy club, just a terrible tragedy.
Yeah, it's absolutely shocking. But I think what I've loved in this, how the football communities come together, really rallied behind Epping. Nathan's family, his friends, his school community was a teacher at Mernda Central College as well. And just the support that's gone on offering, it just goes to show like what people are fortunate enough to do on a Saturday, a Sunday, a Friday night, whenever we do it, get out there, have a kick. We do it for a bit of fun. We do it for the love of the game. We just do it because we love it. We enjoy it. It gives us a break from the stress and rigors of life sometimes. And accidents happen, unfortunately. It's tragic that this has happened. And we just wish the best to everyone. There is a fundraiser on the Epping Football Club Facebook page to help with the Fitzgerald family. So if you can, where the smallest donation matters. But it's been great to see the community rally together as well. It just goes to show that the scoreboard, the ladders that we're touching on, we touch on every week, they matter very little in terms of our life and what we do this for.
Yeah, well said. And to everyone, as we say, from everyone here at the VAFA and the broader VAFA community, our thoughts and best wishes to everyone involved with Nathan's friends, family, the footy club in general. Valet, Nathan Fitzgerald. Are you thinking about pulling on the boots and having a kick in 2026? If so, we'd love to have you in the VAFA. Australia's largest senior footy competition has teams suited to all ages and experience, from under-19s to seniors. Log on to vafa.com.au, check out our club directory and find a club near you. This is For the Love of the Game. It is time to talk Premier B men's. This competition just keeps twisting and turning by the week. Our resident so-called expert, He is an expert. He follows this closer than anyone. It's just extremely difficult to tip. It's one of those situations, the more you know, the harder it is to tip, right?
Yeah, maybe I'm looking at it a bit too closely, Jace.
Matthew Donald, where do you want to start today? In fact, let's start with the thriller down at Hurlingham Park between Bowie and CYMS.
Yeah, no, this is a really interesting one because we've talked about Beau Morris and they've been... we've been threatening to climb up the ladder the last couple of weeks, and they're doing so now. They secured consecutive victories here with a win over Williamstown CYMS. They won by 5 points in the end. 11-20, 86 to 12-9, 81.
So they had 10 more scoring shots.
Yes, it took every one of those to get over the line. The lead changed 7 times over the course of the afternoon. It was a real seesawing affair. James Pepper gave Beau Morris the lead at the 20-minute mark in the final term, and that proved to be the final goal of the match. It was a very, very nervous time on indeed. For the Sharks, they now sit in 5th spot.
Amazing, isn't it?
With a record of 5-6. So they've got a negative win rate, but they sit in the top half of the table. They're just one win outside the top 4 all of a sudden. Given they were sitting in the relegation zone a couple of weeks ago, it's a very good effort from them indeed. The CYs remain in last place, just 3 wins to their name so far this season, but they're only 1 game away from climbing out of the relegation zone. So it is still all to play for both teams. Josh Burke, the coach of the Sharks, he said that it was nice to be able to get the game on their terms after a bit of a slow start. The CYs kicked 4 of the first 5 goals of the match. They really got out of the blocks quite quickly. He said they were really impressive and they were able to test the Sharks with a few things throughout the course of the afternoon, but they managed to clean things up around the contest from the second term onwards and control that second and third term. I'm just pleased ultimately to grind out the result and get a win because they've been on the receiving end of a few narrow defeats. So to be on the right side of the ledger for a change was a nice thing for them indeed.
Entertaining game at Waverley Oval between DYLAN CENCH and Old Carey. DYLAN jumping out to a 26-point lead, but things tightened up a little bit in the final term.
Yeah, they did. They had a 17-point lead at 3/4 time, did DYLAN, but then the Panthers kicked the first 3 goals within the first 5 minutes of the final term and cut the margin back to just 5 points. So the game changed very quickly, but DYLAN steady thereafter. They kicked clear to eventually win by 16 points, 14-12, 96 to 12-8, 80. The standout performer for DYLAN was Luke Healy. We know he's a player with immense potential. We saw him in Premier Men's last year. He kicked 7 goals for the afternoon. He's taken his tally to 30 for the season. He's the second leading goal scorer in Prem B. Max Thompson for the Panthers did everything he could. 29 touches, 10 marks, and 2 goals for him. Neither team moved on the ladder over the weekend. DYLAN in 3rd spot, Old Carey in 8th spot once again. So just goes to show how tight it is that even though that these teams picking up the results that they are, that there's still no movement, but they're still not too far away from the pack around them. But a big win here for DYLAN who consolidate their spot inside the top 4.
Ajax and Old Ivanhoe down at Gary Smorgon.
I feel like I say it every week. Doesn't this just continue to be the story of the season? The Jackets, 4th at the end of the home and away season in Prem C last year, got all the way to the grand final. They're still in 2nd spot. They're still picking up wins. It is a remarkable story. It may well be the story of the year across any division. A 32-point win against last year's Prem B minor premiers, Old Ivanhoe to boot, if you don't mind. The Jackers stormed out of the blocks. They kicked 5 of the first 6 goals of the game, and they kept the Hoers at arm's length thereafter. 14-8, 92 to 8-12, 60 the final score. Jack Hart for the hosts, he kicked 4 goals. Ronan McKenzie was terrific for the Hoers. 34 touches, 15 clearances for him. Ajax still 1 game clear of DYLAN and Old Camberwell in 2nd place. So they would have the double chance if the finals were to start tomorrow. Old Ivanhoe remain in the relegation zone. They're only half a game away from Old Carey. So still, they're not going to take much for them to climb out of that bottom 2. Jackers coach Lockie Buzzard, he just expressed tremendous admiration for his players. That's all he could say. He said he was really proud of the group and when they're at. Coming up a grade, it's never easy, and admitted there's still a long way to go in the campaign. We're only 2/3 of the way through it, but the ability to keep showing up in the last few weeks has been brilliant, and he paid special credit as well to the leaders who've just been enormous throughout the course of 2026. It's been a great story so far.
Yeah, amazing. It was an 8-point game here at Revo Fitness Park, Elstonwick Park, between Old Camberwell and Old Melburnians.
Yeah, Old Melburnians, Old Camberwell rather, continuing their climb up the ladder in Premier B. They had a good result in the end against Old Melburnians at the weekend. The final score in that one, it was a pretty comfortable win, all things considered. 12-16, 88 to 7-7, 49. So stark contrast.
28 shots to 14.
Yeah, stark contrast between the last last game these teams played where it was decided by a kick effectively on the siren. They kicked 9 of the last 13 goals of the match. It was sort of level at quarter time, but in the end they were just far too good. Sam Veach for the Wellers did just about everything. 35 touches, 14 tackles, 9 clearances. Will Deathridge and Nicky Christian for the OMs, they combined for 76 disposals between them. So big midfield numbers from both sets of teams in the end. The Wellers, they now sit outside the top 4 only by percentage, a 5-6 record for them. The OMs fall to 7th place on the ladder, and I'm pretty sure they were only second.
They were second not that long ago.
No, so it just goes to show the craziness of Prem B. Neil Connell said that he's admitted that his side missed a number of opportunities to put a real big score together, 12-16 the final score, but noted that they did a lot right through the midfield. They used the ball better. They gave their forwards a lot more opportunities in the end. They have put in a real focus to apply pressure around the contest, and credit to the defence who have been really solid all season. James Burney just said the team were outplayed, particularly after quarter time. He thought they started the game really well. They worked the ball quite nicely, won the fair share of inside footy, but they just turned the ball over in bad spots after quarter time, wasted the ball going inside 50, and a team like Old Campbell just were able to make them pay.
The one thing we do know about Premier B, we can tip with, in fact, if we took all your collegians tips out, you'd have even less. You're at least getting one every week as a gimme. This week it was Old Geelong, and they won it by 63 points, 17-8, 110, defeated Old Geelong 7-5, 47 to continue their unbeaten run.
Yeah, thanks for drawing attention to the tipping there, Jace. It's very kind of you. Yeah, 11 wins on the bounce now for collegians to start the campaign. 63 points, the final score here. Old Geelong kicked the first goal of the day, but then after that, the Lions kicked 10 of the next 11, and it was a pretty comfortable win, 17-8, 110 to 7-5, 47. Old Geelong had been in some pretty good form, actually, coming into this match as well. We sort of talked a bit about that, their form. They'd rocketed up the ladder, and they were the next informed team to take on collegians, but just swatted them to one side. It's a pretty comfortable team display in the end from the Lions.
Another 63-point win for them.
And what this now means for the ladder, well, we know who's first. That's Collegian still out in front. 11 from 11. There's a big gap, a 4-game gap still between them and Ajax, who just continue to amaze all. A 7-4 record for them. 1 game behind them sit DYLAN and Old Camberwell with 6 wins apiece. And then a game behind them sit Beau Morris and Old Melburnians, who are 5 and 6. Again, they too are separated by a percentage. Then there's just half-game gaps from then on. Half a game behind Old Melburnians, Old Geelong. Another half game Old Carey, another half game Old Ivanhoe, and then another half game Williamstown CYMS. So any of those teams could fall into the relegation zone. They can climb out of the relegation zone. We've still got a third of the home and away season still to play. And we're no closer to knowing exactly where any of these teams are going to end up.
Exactly right. So there's 2.5 games between Ajax in 2nd and Geelong in 7th. And then there's also only a couple of games between Beau Morris in 5th and Williamstown in 10th.
No, it's absolutely incredible. Whatever you do, don't ask me to do the power rankings for this one, because it will probably be completely different forward to what I gave you last start, or outside of collegians, of course. But no, it's just an incredible race that we're going to have at both ends of the table. And there's something to play for everyone. And I mean, there's teams who can play finals. They can also get relegated. It's just incredible. So many good subplots as we enter the final stretch of the home and away campaign.
Well, it's time now to talk to one of the debutants over the last couple of weeks in Premier B Men's. We speak about the young talent that comes through under-19s. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But it's so wonderful for the VAFA to see some of those kids that are playing under-19s footy be able to step up in a senior level and make an impact. And the young man we're about to talk to, still 17 years of age, started his footy journey at Sanctuary Lakes and then on to Point Cook from the under-10s. He kicked 44 goals in 16 under-19 games for Willie last season as a 16-year-old, including 6 against Fitzroy and a couple of bags of 5. This year, he's kicked 37 goals in 9 under-19 games. And in the last 2 weeks, he's stepped up and played Premier B Seniors, kicked 3 goals against Bowie on the weekend. He's been named in the Big V under-19 team this weekend. Still doesn't turn 18 until December, would you believe? He's in Year 12 at Westbourne Grammar. MAAHI PATEL, thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mate, it's great to have you with us, doing some wonderful things for Willie CYMS. Let's start with your experience over the last couple of weeks. What's it been like for you stepping up from under-19s footy, which you've been playing for a while now, to play seniors?
Yeah, no, it's been really good. Obviously, a notch above. I'd expected a few things with the physicality and that sort of thing, but yeah, when you talk about a notch above, you just talk about the speed of the game, how quick the transition is from defense to offense. And those kind of learnings that you don't really get out of under-19s, you're forced to pick up almost as you go in the game in seniors. And yeah, no, it's been a really good experience so far, to be honest.
Kicking a lot of goals. What sort of forward are you? Tell us a little bit about you as a player. What are your strengths? What are your competitive advantages?
I'd like to say I've got a pretty good set of hands. I am a tall forward. I'm not that tall, so I'm 188, so almost like a medium forward.
Yep.
I'd say one of my strengths is probably my hands, and One of the things I've kind of been working on over the past 6 months or so is just my craft as a forward. I'd say last year probably a bit more one-dimensional in terms of just taking the pack mark and that sort of thing. But this year I've tried to really extend it out to a lead, and even crumb a few playing in the seniors. I've kind of realised that there are a few boys that are bigger than me, so I have to make up with that. So I've worked pretty hard on my running and try to see if I can get a bit more speed and that sort of thing. So become a bit more crafty around goal, and I think it's been pretty good.
Playing against seniors for a lot of kids is a massive step up. But as we talked about with your history, you've been playing under 19 footy since you were like 15 or 16 years old. So you're used to playing against bigger bodies, aren't you? And you learn to adapt to that.
Yeah, certainly. I've been very lucky that we've had the under 19s team, and I've been lucky enough to play in it. So I think just the learnings, especially last year when we started off in the Prem group at the CYMS. I think a couple of those games was just like a bit of shock as to how quick the game actually moves, and I think it's actually really set me up really well, and I'm really thankful that I did do my due diligence in the 19s, so that when I did step up into the seniors, obviously it was a big step, but I felt like I was pretty prepared to it, thanks to a bit of preparation.
Matty Donald here. Congratulations on the call up to the Big V squad. Do you remember what was sort of going through your mind the moment you found out you got the call up? What some of the emotions were, and who told you?
Yeah, no. So Con from the senior coach told me that I would be playing, and the emotion was just a bit of relief, to be honest. I felt like one of those things that I'd just been stressing out a little bit about, where my footy was going to go. And I found that, when I got that call up, it was almost a bit of relief that, I'm on the right path. I felt, at times I was kind of, searching for my purpose. And, to get that call up, I was extremely overwhelmed and extremely grateful. And then, in the following days, speaking with mum and dad, the preparation into the game, I think I was super keen, a little bit nervous as well. The nerves probably kicked in a bit more when you get to the ground and that sort of thing. But no, I was just, super thankful and, just super happy as well, to be honest.
How have you found training alongside some of the other stars of the under-9s footy? Obviously, Willie CYMS, you've got some exciting young talent there, but what's it been like training alongside guys from other clubs?
No, it's been great. A great bunch of kids. Obviously we didn't know, or I didn't know many of them. But like over the past 2 weeks, really getting to know everyone. Everyone's a really nice person, really good skills as well. And I think when you do train with people that are better than you, or at a high level, it kind of forces you to try and take their attributes. And I think training's been really good, really high standard, and I'm really grateful that I'm got the opportunity.
Paul Gilmore coaching the Big V under-19s team, St Bernard's coach, senior sergeant in the police force as well. He's a wonderful fella, Paul Gilmore. What have you made of your interactions with him so far? How have you bonded with Gilly?
No, Gilly's been great. From the first session, he's always, said that there are different kids here, different ages, and he's kind of embraced that. But I think the one thing that we've kind of, bonded across is that just our passion for footy. Obviously, Gilly very passionate for footy as well, and some of the, how can I say, maybe what he wants us to bring to training is some of the things I pride myself on, like training intensity, training effort. I think he's pretty big on that, and I think I'm also pretty big on that as well. So no, it's been good, and he's a good fella, Gilly. Really makes you feel welcome. Not at any stage do you feel like you're out of place or anything. And no, it's been good.
We'll see this game live from 11:15 on Saturday on vafa.com.au and Community TV. What have been Gilly's main messages this week? If he was to put something up on the whiteboard as his sort of key themes and messages in the program so far, what are they?
So it's obviously only one game and a limited handful of training sessions, but the biggest thing's probably just been the communication, the voice, trying to get that up, trying to get the energy up in the build-up to the game. Obviously, it's a big deal. And we are playing at Elsternwick Park, so obviously a pretty big ground. But I think, one of the focuses is just going to be trying to move that footy as fast as possible, trying to get it to our forwards as quick as possible, and just enjoying the day and soaking it all in, to be honest.
Mate, what's the overriding emotion as the big day approaches? Is it nerves, excitement, a combination of both? What are you sort of feeling as we get towards the big day?
No, I think it's a combination of both, to be honest. A bit of nerves, a bit of excitement, but I think I'm just happy to be playing footy when there's a break, and I'm obviously very grateful that I've been given the opportunity to play in this. Yeah, to be honest, just excitement is the big one. I think nerves will probably kick in on the day, but yeah, just a bit of excitement, to be honest.
And May, what can you tell us? I took some interest in your journey from the western suburbs of Melbourne, from Point Cook. What actually led you to come across the Amos club that is Willie CYMS?
Yeah, so I started off at, as you said, Century Lakes and then Point Cook, played until under-16s, and yeah, I was having good fun with footy, but I was kind of lost and didn't know where I wanted to take my footy. And yeah, I had a few mates that moved across from Willie Juniors in their first year that I go to school with, and they kind of nudged me along to come over, have a few training sessions, and I went down and really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the level of footy that they played, and yeah, since then I really haven't looked back, and I'm super thankful to myself for making that decision.
May, we are so grateful for you giving us your time today. We cannot wait to see you in action this Saturday. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Mate, enjoy the experience. Thanks so much for your time and for the love of the game.
Perfect. And just lastly, if I can, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to you guys for having me, and a huge thank you to the Willie CYMS as well for all the support, especially Con, Dan, and all the coaches and all the staff, all the players, just for making me feel so welcome and yeah, just really embracing me. So thank you very much, guys.
The VAFA Rising Star Award recognises the competition's most talented young players. Each week, the VAFA Rising Star Committee receives nominations for one male and one female player aged 20 years or under who played no more than 7 senior games before this season. Our overall season winners will be declared the VAFA Rising Stars for 2026. So if your club has a young gun making their mark, nominate them now at media@vafa.com.au. This is For the Love of the Game, and it's time to talk Premier C men's. And this competition's been interesting. It's been it's been split down the middle. The top teams have been dominating. The bottom teams have struggled a little bit. We always say there's somewhere along the line where there's a bit of a gap. And this year it feels like, Matty, it's probably 25 teams in. The top 2 sections and half of Premier C, 25 really competitive teams, and then it's been a bit of a battle for the teams in the bottom half of the ladder, and then into Div 1 there's a bit of a gap.
Yeah, and there's almost sort of 2 ladders within the Prem C ladder.
Yep.
You've got the top half, which are vying for finals.
And they're both equally as important, that's the thing.
Yes, yeah, no, pivotal races and pivotal encounters at both ends of the table. But yeah, no, it feels like for all the evenness of all the competitions that we speak of, it feels like there is a bit of a divide between the top and bottom half of Prem C at the moment, but makes it no less interesting.
Yeah, definitely right. And let's go through some of these results from the weekend's action. And Old Peninsula versus Ormond, the 2 teams that played in the grand final last year and both got promoted from Division 1. They met. It's been a tough season for both of them, as you'd expect. Brayden, in the end, it was Old Peninsula getting the job done. 13-6-84 defeated Ormond, 8-16-64 by 20 points down at Harry McDonald. So 24 scoring shots to 19 in favour of the Monders, but they fall 20 points short.
Yeah, the Pirates are starting to play some good footy. Spoke to Coach Brendan Dutton the other day, and he's just wrapped. They've improved heaps. The key thing was we came up, we had to adjust our footy. So last year they got away with being a bit more attacking. This year, in his words, we're a bit older, we're a bit slower than the opposition. So we've had to reset our defensive structures a bit, how we set up the ground forward behind the footy. And it's working. The last 6 weeks he's been really impressed with. The best thing about this, they actually didn't train last weekend because there was so much rain in Melbourne. They got into the Peninsula Grammar gym and did some basketball sort of stuff, a bit of fun, bit of light. Took the boys off their legs, which is a great result. And yeah, they're playing some really good footy. That's 2 wins in a row now.
We heard Marcel Bruin last year talk to us about Old Brighton and the fact that you get to the depths of winter this time of the year, and it is time to start mixing things up. So it might be a recovery session, and you do hot cold pools, and you do saunas, and you do Pilates, and you do different things. You go to a basketball stadium. You just got to try different things, as much physically, but also mentally.
Yeah, exactly right. And especially like when you run out on the ground like behind us at the moment, they are getting a bit chopped up, but they're heavy, the rain. And these guys are training 2 times a week, and who knows what
they're fit enough at this time of the year. It's just about maintaining it.
And we often ask the question of the real top teams, like how do you maintain the rage when you're that far ahead? And you've got to find ways to try and mix it up and keep the players on their toes. So and there'll be a lot of coaches that are at the top end of the ladder in a lot of divisions. They'll be looking to just find ways to keep it fresh for the players.
Yeah, definitely. Top 4 clash between Fitzroy and Hampton at Fitzroy. 15-10-100, the Roys over Hampton 8-7-55, 45-point win for Fitzroy. This was a bit of a statement.
Yeah, the Roys have just got this ability at the moment. The Rovers were in the contest at halftime, and then the Roys just put the foot down. Really key thing is their ability just to score quickly and put games away. One guy that really take note of, Sam Jordan. He's taking his chances in Fitzroy's forward line. So he's now got 19 goals in 7 senior outings this season. So he was in and out of the seniors last year with only a handful of games, but what I like is he's come in, he's found a bit of a niche role, averaging almost 3 goals a game, and they don't have that big power forward like one of the other contenders in Parkdale Vultures who we touch on with Mitch Brown in Ton Watch.
As we said in this competition, Prem C, you've sort of got the top half and the bottom half. So if you are in the top half, you've got to cash in when you're playing against the bottom half because percentage is going to be really important in that race. For the 4, there's at least 5 teams that can make it, so percentage is going to be critical. St Bede's Mentone got the job done over Marcelin, 12-15-87, defeated Marcelin 5-4-34, so a 53-point win for St Bede's Mentone Tigers down at Marcelin College.
Yeah, and Jai Pugsley on debut finished with 4 goals. So he's a young fella that started the season in the 19s. He played the first 5 or 6 in the 19s, stepped up into the reserves, the development team. I think he had 23 goals in 4 games, earned his senior debut. Really nice video of Dan Garside presenting him with his jumper on the Tigers social media channel as well, worth a look. So, yeah, good for him to come in and have an impact as well. And I think, as we'll touch on with Senchi a bit later, the 19s, there's different kids available at the moment in their senior grades, which is really exciting and a bit of a glimpse to the future.
Big win for Parkdale Vultures. They had 43 scoring shots to 6 over Glenara Old McKinnon, but they kicked 19-24, 138. Still won by 122 points. Glenara 2-4-16, but 43 shots to 6 at Packer Park. This could have been anything.
Well, it's not often you say that you win by 122 points and it feels a little bit unders. But, yeah, when you've got a scoreline of 19-24 in the end, yeah, they certainly feels like they left a few out there, the Vultures. But still a big win. And as you touched on earlier, when you're in the top half and you're playing these teams in the bottom half in Prem C, you've got to cash in and you've got to win big. And at the very least, they still managed to do that. But, no, definitely left a few out there to the Vultures.
They're sitting second at the moment, equal with Mazenod on points. Brayden, where do you have Parkdale? They're in the mix, aren't they? Without question.
I would have them second favourite. I think Fitzroy's earned the right to earn the number 1 position. And I think there's a bit of a watch on Mitch Brown as well. I think he got a lot of the job done earlier than might have been put on ice as well. So it's a bit of a watch there.
Well, he booted 6. You're saying he might be injured or they just rested him up?
Yeah,
job
maybe
done.
just rested him up, job done. And why not? Give him 2 weeks off with his experienced body. He's obviously been through a lot of AFL pre-seasons and that sort of stuff as well.
Final game of the round was also a big win for Mazenod, 2013-133, defeated Pegs 4-4-28. 105-point win this one for Mazenod, who sit third. They're equal with Parkdale. That's a pretty good win because Pegs were sort of the best of the rest in that bottom half of the ladder type area. That's a big win.
Yeah, no surprise though. The Nodders have been one of the biggest improvers. And I think one of the great stories of the VAFA this season, you've got the premiership captain, obviously, from 2000 in Andrew Pickering, come back, coach the club. They've got some fantastic players that we'll touch on in a minute when it comes to Big V selection and things like that. But yeah, they're going really well and they're getting better as the season goes on. I think they're arguably they're the biggest surprise pack in this division. But then you touch on Pegs. We spoke to Dan Flaherty ahead of his milestone last week. They're super young. So they're just going to walk away, and I think they've just got to do what they can, especially against those in the bottom 5 with them.
Yeah, so let's talk ladder, top 5 and bottom 5, Matty. The top 5 is Fitzroy on 44. Then you've got 2 games back to Parkdale and Mazenod on 36. Hampton 1 game further back on 32. So that's your top 4. Outside the top 4, St Bede's 1 game back at 28. Then there's a 4-game gap. So there's your top 5 at the moment. 5 into 4 won't go. So it's going to be Fitzroy, Parkdale, Mazenod, Hampton, St Bede's, Mentone Tigers. One of them's going to miss. Then the bottom half is very interesting. There's only 2 games separating the bottom 5 teams on the ladder.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting race. And I look at that race for finals, and not only is the top 4 itself really interesting, but that second spot, the double chance, actually I feel is actually going to be pretty important now, particularly when you've got Parkdale and Mazenod who sit level on 9 wins apiece, and then Hampton only 1 game behind them. I mean, that could all change within the space of a couple of weeks. So really important to get those big percentage boosting wins when you can, because given the evenness of that top 5, the double chance could well come in handy.
So Pegs are 6. They're on 12. Old Peninsula also now on 12. They're a game out of the drop zone, which is Marcelin on 8 and Glenara Old McKinnon on 8 and Ormond on 4. So at the moment, it's the Griffins and the Monders sitting in the relegation spots. Marcelin's only there by percentage, and it's 13%. They're out of the drop zone by 13%. They're on 8 points as well. And then you've got Pegs and Old Peninsula, a game ahead of the drop zone. So any combination of those bottom 5 teams could end up down the bottom.
We'll have to use a cliche. Every time these teams play each other, it's an 8-point game now. Yep. That's all it becomes. It's very interesting looking at Old Peninsula and Ormond, the 2 sides that come up. Old Peninsula are on that older, more experienced end, whereas Ormond are super young, and they brought in a couple of experienced guys for the jump up, but they're still super young. So it's going to be interesting when you look further down the track of the other sides that come up. How do you manage that situation for the jump into the Premier grades of footy?
And one of the fixtures when we come back from the Big V by Ormond against Marcelin.
Yeah, right.
That's going to be
critical.
That's going to be huge. That is one of those 8-point games we speak of. That's going to be massive for both of those teams.
So effectively in Prem C, we're going to have 2 round robins, aren't we, between here and the end of the season? You've got the top 5 teams playing against each other. That's going to determine who makes the 4. And you've got the bottom 5 teams playing against each other, and that'll determine who gets relegated.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think everyone will play each other once now. I think there's been the double upset of things like that are gone as well for some of these teams. So it's going to, again, and some of those teams in the top 5, when you win, you're going to want to leave the foot on the throat and win well.
So that's our results for Premier C men's. We're going to talk to one of the stars of the competition, not only the competition, but of the Big V. One man who's doing a rare double. He represented the Big V senior team in Adelaide 6 or so weeks ago, and this weekend he's lining up to represent the Big V in the Premier B Division 3 team. I speak of Mazenod's MATT FEWINGS. Matt, thanks for your time.
Hi, Jace. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, congratulations. As I say, it's a bit of a rarity to get the opportunity to play in 2 different Big V teams in the 1 year. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, definitely not lost on me. I'm really honoured. And just to wear the jumper once, I was really proud of myself. But to do it twice in 1 year, yeah, something that I'm sure I'll reflect back on later in my career and be, really proud of myself.
And to get the opportunity to be playing Prem C footy but play in the senior team is an incredible achievement in itself. What did that mean to you? What does it mean to your footy club?
Yeah, it meant a lot to me. I was really honoured to get that opportunity, and I thanked Daniel Harper a lot for giving me that chance. And I think also it showed that you don't have to be a premier player to be able to play in that top game. And hopefully, moving forward, a lot of guys, and hopefully I can get another opportunity to try and play in that premier game at lower divisions, because there are some amazing players who I know can fit into that team. But for my club as well, my goal has always been to try and make Mazenod continue to be more relevant and bring back those days when we're in Premier A. So to get Mazenod more recognised, it's great.
Matty Donald here. Great to catch up with you again, and congratulations on your second selection for the Big V this year. Feels like only yesterday we were in South Australia for the Big V weekend. What were your memories of that weekend? Is it still fresh in the mind?
Yeah, it's definitely still fresh in the mind. I just remember going through that whole weekend just being so grateful. I remember going to the first training session. I was a bit nervous. I wasn't sure if those Premier boys would get around me, because I'm sure they would have no idea who I am. But they were all lovely people, and I just enjoyed the experience so much. And even though the game didn't quite go to plan, just the whole experience of it is what I'll remember the most. Yeah, so it was amazing.
Matt, it's Brayden here. I believe you played in the game last year against Bendigo, another country competition this year in the Goulburn Valley. What do you take away from last year's game? Do they bring a different sort of physicality style with these country leagues compared to Amos footy?
Yeah, there's definitely that physical side, but I think you also find that these teams, these country leagues, they play on big grounds as well. So you can't underestimate what they can do with the footy, and they're really great running teams as well. But I'm sure they probably think about the VAFA. Maybe they think we're a bit more outside younger players. So one of our goals this week has just been to show them that we are really strong and can match their physicality, but then also bring a lot of speed and class on the outside.
New coaching staff this year for Premier B to D3. The Geishans, Jeff and Jared. Jared as coach and Jeff as his senior assistant, who will also, I think, be looking after the backline, Matty. So much passion, so excited. They just love their footy. They've been raring to go from the start of the year. Tell us a little bit about the experience so far in the program with Jared and Jeff.
Yeah, I've absolutely loved it. I think every experience I've had with the Big V has been amazing. And I know this is Jared and Jeff's first time doing it, and they've absolutely killed it so far. And I know I've talked to them a few times just saying how well they're doing. I think from the start, it was about a month before training began, Jared was already on the phone to players, just trying to get some feedback about how he could go about it. And the whole program's run so smoothly. You talked about his passion, that's been really evident. But the ability to bring players together and feel connected, and I know we're going in really confident this week, and that's probably been off the preparation and commitment that those coaches have put in for us.
Matt, just heading into this one, you've been struggling for form a bit lately. You only had the 50 disposals at the weekend. Wasn't even a season high from you. But on a more serious note, are you feeling like you're at the peak of your powers right now? Is this the best you've ever been playing?
It's hard to reflect. I'd probably say, yeah, I feel like I'm impacting the game the most at the moment, but I've got our new coach, Andrew Pickering, is always keeping me quite accountable and always giving me ways I can continue to improve. So I think just continuing to make the most of all my disposals and try to really leave a damaging impact on the game. I feel like that's probably been the biggest improvement in my game since previous seasons, and I think there's still scope to improve and maybe hit the scoreboard a few times.
Well, Matty, obviously one of the great things about this concept is it brings together players from all different clubs, different levels. Is there a teammate that you've latched onto or someone you're really looking forward to going to work on your side instead of an opposition this weekend?
It's a good question. I'd really say Nathan Ligris is someone he plays for Fitzroy, usually kills us by foot. So it'd be nice for him to hopefully kick me the ball. That'd be nice. Service will be great. But yeah, like you said, the opportunity to come together with so many players from different clubs and opponents, that's probably the best thing about the Big V. And when you get back to local level, you always go out your way to say hello to them, and you always have that connection, even if they're playing a different division to you. If you see them around, you can always say, yeah, we're teammates through the Big V, which is such a great thing, and I love it.
Yeah, that's the thing that endures much forever, really, well beyond the wins and the losses. Matty, you've got to be so flexible to play rep footy in terms of being able to be versatile in different positions, etc. What have the Geishas said to you about the potential role that you'll be playing on the weekend, without giving too much away?
Yeah, without giving too much away, I think I'll be in a bit more in the midfield and then rolling to the forward line as well this week. So I've known from my previous Big V experience that I've been more a high half forward, but for Jared to put the trust in me to maybe make some moves into the midfield, hopefully I can repay his faith.
For the entire VAFA community that's going to be tuning in on Saturday, our live coverage from 11:15 Saturday morning with the Under-19s game straight into this Premier B-Div 3 game. What should they expect? What can they expect when they tune in the afternoon to see you guys take on Goulburn Valley League? What do you want to see from your team and that vibe that you've had within the group? What are you expecting you guys to deliver on Saturday?
What I'm expecting us to deliver is Big V footy. What you can all expect is we show that connection, which is really evident, and I know we've built that quite strongly already. But just exciting brand of footy where we can match country teams on the inside, but then we show our class and polish, quick ball movement and great skills, and then we'll finish our work off in the forward line and hopefully walk away with another win for the Beta D3 team.
Matty, thanks so much for your time, mate. Congratulations again on being selected. We can't wait to see you in action on Saturday. All the best.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Matt Fewings joining us from Mazenod and from the Big V, and you will see him live in action on Saturday. As I said, our coverage from 11:15, the Under-19s game against Goulburn Valley League, rolling straight into the Premier B versus D3 game in the afternoon. It's going to be a fantastic day of football, and we can't wait to see it. Matty Fewings joining us here on For the Love of the Game. Really looking forward to that on the weekend. It's going to be amazing to have some more Big V action for us to look forward to this Saturday. Let's talk men's divisional footy and whip through the results there across the weekend. We'll start with Division 1 men's. There was a top-of-the-table clash. We'll get to that shortly. We'll start with Q, 14-14-98, defeated St Mary's Salesian, 11-9-75. The Bears by 23 points. Big win for Oakley, 21-13-139. Defeated Monash Blues, 6-2-38. 101-point win for the Crushers. Here's the top-of-the-table game, the really important one. Preston Bull Ants, 11-14-80, got the job done over Parkside, 10-10-70 at Preston City Oval. 10-point win for the Bull Ants, huge for them. Brunswick, 16-14-110, defeated Old Yarra Cobras, 4-7-31 by 79 points. And a big win for Paran also, 19-16-130, good percentage boost over UHSVU, 4-3-27, 103-point win for the two Blues, which means it's all the Ps at the top of the table, the three Ps. Preston, 48 points, 12 and zip, still undefeated. A 3-game gap now to Parkside on 36 points. 1 game back to Paran and Q on 32. That's your top 4. So at the moment, 1 game between Parkside, Paran and Q. One game further back, Oakley. Another game further back, St Mary's Salesian on 24. Half a game to Brunswick on 22. Then it's a three-team race for relegation in Division 1. UHSVU on 10 points. Monash Blues on 8. And Old Yarra yet to win a game. So you would think it's probably between UHS and Monash Blues. There's half a game between the two of them. So again, it'll probably just come down to those who wins those games between the bottom three.
Yeah, and we're going to get a lot of those 8-point games throughout the course of the final third of the home and away season. We look at Division 2 now, and a thriller played out between North Brunswick and Therapanola. North Brunswick 3-13-31. Defeated Therapanola 4-6-30. So bad kicking is beautiful football. Kicking fewer goals, North Brunswick, and still managing to get the win by just 1 point. Powerhouse and Aquinas, the other matchup, first v last, and it played out exactly as you'd expect. Powers 22-11, 143, defeated Aquinas 3-5-23. So 120-point win there for Powerhouse. Canterbury over Elsonwick in a 10-point ball game, 14-9, 93 to 12, 11, 83. MHSOB just getting the job done against West Brunswick on the road, 11-10, 76 to 8 to 12, 60. The last matchup of the weekend, Whitefriars 13-7, 85, 20-point victors over South Melbourne 10-5, 65. And what it means for the ladder is that Powerhouse and Whitefriars still remain on 9 wins each in first and second spot on the ladder. 2 games behind them are both Canterbury and MHSOB. Sitting 1 game behind them is Elsonwick with a 7-5 record. So it's a pretty tight top 5 once again, gents. But then moving back is a bit of a gap. 2 games behind Elsonwick, West Brunswick and Therapanola with 5 wins to their name. South Melbourne with 4 wins to their name, sitting in 8th. And then North Brunswick 1 game behind them in 9th. Aquinas 1 game behind them, rounding out the Division 2 ladder. So
much like the other division we just spoke of, it's probably the 3 teams fighting to avoid the bottom 2 spots.
Yeah, that feels like that's the case at the moment. Just when even though there is a bit of a gap between 5th and 6th, it feels like that it's going to be between those 3 teams at the bottom.
A couple of games in Division 3, Brayden.
Yeah, Wattle Park continuing on their way with a 20-23, 143 to 2-5-17 win over Latrobe. And then a bit of an upset. Hawthorn beat Richmond Central 10-12, 72 to 9-9, 63. And what that means for the ladder, Wattle Park are 2 games clear on top of the ladder with 36 points. Richmond Central are on 28 points. Hawthorn are now 2 games further back of them on 20 points. Latrobe are on 8, and Albert Park, who had the bye, are on 4.
That wraps up men's footy for the weekend. Next, we will talk VAFA women's as For the Love of the Game continues. Looking for VAFA updates on the go? Download the brand new VAFA app today. Get live scores, fixtures, ladders, and all the latest VAFA news right at your fingertips. Whether you're a player, supporter, or just love local footy, the VAFA app keeps you in the game. Search VAFA in your app store and download it now. Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. It's time to talk VAFA women's competition now. Let's go through our William Buck Premier Women's results from the weekend. At Old Brighton, 5-9-39, defeated Fitzroy 3-5-23 by 16 points down at Brighton Beach Oval. A massive win for Old Scotch. They just keep on rolling on. 16-10, 106. Old Geelong, no score. Down at Como Park.
Big win.
So it's a big win indeed.
That's a statement. Unbelievable. West Brunswick in a thriller over Westbourne Grammarians. 2-10-22 West Brunswick to 2-3-15. Bad kicking's great football.
As Hugo would say.
They won it by 7 points, literally 7 behinds. And the other game, Caulfield kept on keeping on. 3-10-28 defeated Q 1-4-10 down at Victoria Park in Q. So our ladder as we hit the bye, the second bye of the year, and they are locked together on top. Caulfield Grammarians and Old Scotch on 36 points. They have kicked well clear of the field. They're 3 games clear of West Brunswick and Q, who are locked together on 24. 1 game back to Fitzroy and Old Brighton. Another game back to St Kevin's. 1 more to Old Geelong, and then Westbourne bringing up the field. So the top 6 in the race for the top 4 there.
Very close indeed. And we look at Prem B now, and a couple of interesting results over the course of the weekend. Started Doncaster Reserve. Old Zavarians getting a big win over Old Yarra Cobras, 11-7-73 to 4-1-25. Close one at Joel Murphy Reserve. Glen Ira Old McKinnon, a 4-point win over Port Melbourne Chargers, 7-6-48 to 6-8-44. And Parkside getting a big win over Williamstown CYMS at Pitcher Park, 11-8-74 to 1-2-8. The only other result of the weekend was Beau Morris against Old Melburnians. Beau Morris winning that one by forfeit. So it's a comfortable way for them to maintain their unbeaten start to the season as we turn our attention to the ladder. They now sit 11-0 do the Sharks, 4 games clear of Old Melburnians. Old Zaverians a game behind them in third spot. And then there are 3 teams tied on 5 wins apiece. Williamstown CYMS, Port Melbourne Chargers and Parkside. 1 game behind that pack are Glen Ira Old McKinnon with 4 wins to the name in 7th. And then rounding out the ladder in 8th spot with 1 win to their name, Old Yarra Cobras. In Division 1, I think we got the most exciting fixture of the weekend, where everyone pretty much played everyone on the ladder, which is fantastic. And top of the ladder clash, Marcelin 5-1-31, got the better of Powerhouse 3-6-24. So Marcelin now top of the ladder. In the other game that had implications around the top 4 was Ormond 3-3-21, beating Monash Blues 2-3-15. Towards the foot of the ladder, Latrobe picked up their second win of the campaign, 1-4-10, got the better of Oakley, 1-2-8 in a close one there. And then rounding out the weekend, Whitefriars 2-8-20, beat Old Kerry 2-5-17. Now turning to the ladder, there's been a bit of movement here. Marcelin sit a game clear on top of the ladder at 9-2. Ormond and Powerhouse are now in second and third respectively with an 8-3 record. Monash Blues maintain their advantage, 10 points clear in the race for fourth. Whitefriars and Old Kerry are both at 4 and 7. Oakley are 2 games further back on 10 points, and then Latrobe still bring up the field.
Well, the race for Division 2 Women's is gaining speed by the week. A thriller at Ferndale Park. St Mary's 3-5-23. St Mary's Salesian defeated DYLAN CENCH 3-4-22. So a 1-point win there for St Mary's Salesian, who sit fourth. They've just knocked off the top team by 1 point, which is just even things up at the top of the ladder, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Old Camberwell 5-7-37 defeated MCC 1-5-11 by 26 points. Beaumaris big winners over UHSVU 14-9-93 to 3 behind, so they won that game by 90 points, a huge bonus in percentage for Bowie. And the final game of Division 2 Women's for the weekend, Richmond Central 7-4-46 defeating Hampton Rovers 2-5-17 by 29 points. So the ladder has tightened up a little. DYLAN CENCH, as we mentioned, were out in front, but that loss has reduced their lead over Beaumaris to a single game, and Beaumaris's big win means their percentage is 100% better than DYLAN CENCH's. 100% percentage on the ladder, not 100% better in real life, but you know what I'm saying. It's the only time when you could have more than 100%. So 32 DYLAN CENCH, 28 Beaumaris, 28 Richmond Central, 28 St Mary's Salesian, 28 Old Camberwell Seniors. So the top 5 separated by 1 game in Division 2 Women's. 2 games back is UHSVU and then MCC and Hampton Rovers. So the top 5 teams in Division 2 Women's separated by 1 win.
Haven't we got some incredible finals runs across all the divisions and competitions in the VAFA in 2026? As we look at Div 3 now, and it's a pretty tight top 4 here as well. Just the 2 fixtures taking place this weekend. Parkdale against Hawthorn. I'll start there first because Parkdale won that one by forfeit, but the 2 games that actually played out, Caulfield Grammarians getting a win on the road against Paran Collegians, the 2 Blue Lions, 3-4-22, plays 2-3-15 at Toorak Park. So
you contractually obliged to mention 2 Blue Lions every time.
Well, we
Good,
say
I like it.
It's one of the best nicknames going around, so we got to make sure that we get it out there. Old Haileybury with a big win against Old Yarra Cobras, the other result, 13-2-80.
I like
good
it.
Kicking is good football indeed. Well done to the Bloods there. Old Yarra Cobras 3-2-20 at Doncaster Reserve. The ladder, now we've got 3 teams tied on 9 wins apiece. Parkdale, Old Haileybury and Hawthorn, all with 9 wins to their name as the top 3. And then there's a bit of a gap. Paran Collegians are 3 games behind with 6 wins to their name. And then there's another big gap. Caulfield Grammarians sitting in 5th spot with 2 wins to their name, and Old Yarra Cobras rounding out the ladder with 1 win to their name.
Now, I'm going to claim that Division 4 Women's is the tightest finals race anywhere. Maybe even pushing Premier B Men's.
Okay.
You're just going to have to sit with
sell
me.
it to us.
State the case.
So we say defence wins premierships. Well, let's start at the top of the table. Wattle Park 139 got the better of Mazenod 0-2 to 2, so a 7-point win there. Then other games, North Brunswick with a good win 3-3-21 over the Muggers 1-7-13. Bad kicking is bad football, unfortunately, for the Muggers there. Fitzroy's third side 5-2-32 beat Albert Park 4-3-27. Canterbury in another close game 4-6-30 got the better of Brunswick 3-1-19, and then Aquinas 4-8-32 defeated Old Zavs 1-6-12. So Wattle Park with their win, they're top of the ladder, 1 game clear of Aquinas and Mazenod. They're both on 28 points. A game further back in 4th and 5th, we've got Old Zavs seconds and Muggers on 24. Canterbury are 6th, a game further back. Then half a game further back, we've got Albert Park and Brunswick. And then further back, even though they're bringing up the end of the ladder, 16 points for Fitzroy 3 and North Brunswick. All sides can play finals.
So the bottom team is 2 games out of the finals at the moment with 7 to play.
Yep, that's perfect. It keeps you engaged as a fan and as a player.
Yeah, well, it's not a bad argument, Matty. Early on, I thought it was a little sus, but the fact that there is no fall away and every single team in the competition is in finals race, I don't think there's another, as you say, maybe Premier B Men's might be the only other one in the comp at a senior level that I can think of where pretty much everyone's still alive.
Yeah, one of those suggestions that you scoff at when you first hear it, but then you actually delve into the numbers a bit more, and it is quite remarkable how close it is. And with one stretch to go until the finals begin, anyone can still make it from here, and that's exactly what you want. That's a sign of a great competition.
I didn't scoff at you, Brayden. I mean, obviously, clearly, Matty's got no confidence in you, but I believed in you.
I thought I might have won him over on the weekend with some confidence, but clearly not.
You were very good on the weekend, very good indeed. Now, let's talk the final round, or the final section, rather, of the VAFA Women's Comp for the weekend is Division 5 Women's. West Brunswick, big winners, 14-14-98, defeated DYLAN CENCH, one behind by 97 points. Good win for St Kevin's third team as well. 6-16-52, defeated Glenira Old McKinnon, one straight goal by 46 points at Packer Park. At EE Gun, it was Ormond 3-11-29, defeating Elsternwick 2-4-16. South Melbourne winners over Parkside 5-7-37 to 2 straight 12 by 25 points. In the final game, Preston Bull Ants 5-4-34, defeated Monash Blues 1-6-12 by 22 points. Our ladder in Division 5, St Kevin's on 34, half a game clear of Preston Bull Ants, one game back to Elsternwick on 28. Then a game and a half's gap to Parkside on 22. Half a game to Ormond, West Brunswick and South Melbourne. So 7 teams in the race for the 4 there. And then the fall away. Glenira on 8, Monash and DYLAN on 4. So South Melbourne sit on 20 points in 7th spot. They're only half a game out of the top 4, so it's pretty tight in Division 5 Women's as well.
There's a lot of competitions that are like that. Not necessarily where the whole ladder is still in play, but when you've got 7 or even 8 teams that are still in the finals mix with a third of the home and away season still to go, which is just what you want.
Yeah, and then you find that the other teams are in a relegation race more often than not as well. So everyone's still got something to play for all the way through to the final round, which is exactly the way you want it.
It's a great advertisement for the competition because there's nothing worse than if we get to this stage of the season, we go, well, the top 4 set, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah, top 4 set, the bottom 2 or 3 are set, and then you've got a bunch of teams in the middle that are playing for nothing. Well, we don't have that.
It's absolutely fantastic, and I think it goes to show, just even going through the results, then like games there's no real blowouts, especially between those teams at the top of the ladder. So you've got to bring your A game every week.
Yeah, it's exciting. So that is it for VAFA Women's this week. After the break, we'll bring in DYLAN CENCH Footy Humphries, and Lockie Moy will talk under-19s. That's next on For the Love of the Game. VAFA Media has risen to another level in 2026 with more live stream and radio coverage coming your way every Saturday. Enjoy our award-winning VAFA SEN Match of the Day radio call on vafa.com.au and the SEN app from 1:45. Plus a host of Premier Men's matches and our Under-19 Premier Match of the Round streaming every week on Community TV. Along with more live and free matches from Premier Men's and Premier Women's streaming on vafa.com.au than ever before. And don't forget that every game from Premier Men's, Premier B, Premier C and Premier Women's can be enjoyed on demand in full every week at vafa.com.au. Saturdays are for the VAFA. Catch the action live on the VAFA website, Community TV and the SEN app. This is For the Love of the Game. DYLAN CENCH Footy Humphries, welcome.
It's good to be here another week.
How was your weekend?
Yeah, very good.
Where were you?
I was just at home. Didn't play footy. Just worked from home.
Worked from home and just kept on top of you in your VAFA socials bunker?
Yep, correct.
Have you got like monitors and stuff all in a room somewhere and bits of string with cut out bits of Brayden's articles connecting them and stuff?
Yep, correct.
Yeah, I figured that'd be...
You're spot on.
Yeah, I thought that's what it'd look
all
like.
over it.
Lockie Moyer, our Holmes Glen Under-19 Premier reporter, joins us also on the line. G'day, Lockie.
G'day, boys. Good to be back. Another great round of footy.
It was another great round of footy in the 19s. It just keeps getting better and better and better. Where would you like to start?
We can start at Old Zab's Caulfield. I thought this was one of the most dominant wins of the afternoon, unfortunately, against a very undermanned Caulfield side, which we have to sort of mention off the top. But, it really gives Old Zab's a big percentage booster here. Matt Hanley, the coach, was really pleased to get a comfortable victory and sort of all the stars aligned for him. I think it's important to mention that Caulfield were undermanned because they are a lot better than this and sort of what they're showing at the moment. So once they're able to get players back, I think we will see a better showing. But, just unfortunate what they have to go through at the moment. Can't really get their best team out there. Yeah,
it was a very impressive performance. It was our KTV game from Glen Huntly Park, and it was Old Zabs 2017-137, defeated Caulfield 5-2-32. It was a real statement from Zabs, wasn't it, Cenchy?
Yeah, big statement and much needed percentage booster for them.
Where else? Where next? Let's go to Waverley Oval. This was a good game. DYLAN CENCH versus St Bede's Mentone Tigers.
Yeah, it was. It was an important result for DYLAN. They've had some recent sort of inconsistencies, but speaking to Coach Andy Otten, he was really pleased with sort of a genuine four-quarter effort that they showed, beating a very good side as well. I think sort of from the centre bounce, it was clear that DYLAN had sort of earmarked this game as one as a must-win. Their intensity was very good from the off, and they were able to sort of shut down St Bede's Mentone in all facets of the game. So yeah, really impressive stuff, and good to see him back on the winners list.
I did get a text from our man Hugo, probably about 11:30 on Saturday.
Just poolside?
Yeah, poolside. He actually sent me a photo. He was
you probably don't want that.
He was waiting for the bar to open, but yeah, he was very happy.
Well, that's a massive win for DYLAN because it moves them back within a game of the top 4, which is St Bede's Mentone Tigers. In fact, it moves them within a game of second spot, and they sit 6th at the moment. So huge win for them in this ladder, which is incredibly compressed. And those are the sort of results that can just swing a season.
Yeah, 8-point games, and we're going to get a lot of them now. I think I got sent that exact same photo ad that you got sent you. Hugo was quite keen to let everyone know exactly where he was. Lockie, I want to look at the match at St Kevin's College that took place. A thriller there. Old Brighton maintaining top spot on the ladder, but they were made to earn it.
100%, probably game of the round. St Kevin's seem to just unfortunately be getting themselves on the wrong side of the coin with these close games. Speaking to Paul Greenham, he sort of seems to think because of these close games that are very capable and good sides probably going to miss out on finals because of them, which is unfortunate. But speaking about the winners, Trav O'Donoghue, the coach of Old Brighton, was very sort of praised his side's resilience. They were sort of, St Kevin's were throwing a lot at them and they kept fighting back, so that's great to see. And 6 schoolboys came into Old Brighton's side and really stood up. So that's really great to see that the young talent keeps filtering through.
It's a great point because St Kevin's at the moment sit 5th position there, 6 and 5, but 4 of those losses have been by less than a goal. 4 of their 5 losses this year by less than a goal. So only once have they been comprehensively beaten. So they're the sort of team, Cinch, if they can sneak in even in a 4th spot, they could be very dangerous and go all the way.
Well, if they won on the weekend, we would have had 5 teams on 28 points.
Yeah.
That
ridiculous.
Crazy. Yeah.
Actually, further to that, St Kevin's would have been first because their percentage is the best in the competition.
Wow.
And instead, they're sitting in 5th spot. That's how close it is.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Remarkable.
That's right. Because right, Brighton would have been on 28 as well. So yeah, it just goes to show one kick either way can literally just swing everything.
Yep.
You could go from finishing minor premiers to not even making the finals based on one kick. Remarkable. Where else are we going to go? Oh, well, let's go to Camberwell Sports Ground. Old Scotch, 11-13-79, defeated Uni Blues 5-8-38. The Scotch Whisperer's done it again. No surprise.
How many in a row now?
Is it 6?
No.
Is it 7?
Yes.
7 in a row.
Yeah, just like Carlton. The streak, both teams keep going, so.
7 in a row for Old Scotch. Of course, that came as no surprise to you.
No, I've tipped him for the last 7 weeks, so.
And Lockie's finally twigged, and he's tipping him as well.
He's jumped on board.
What was the aftermath of this? Uni Blues 41 points short of the Cards, who have won 7 straight.
Yeah, 7 straight, remarkable after starting 0-4. That's one of the great turnarounds. But yeah, speaking of sort of APS talent, Old Scotch had a lot of APS kids come through and play, and they really sort of set the tone, which was great. Uni Blues are wrapped. They've got a bye coming up just because they need some players to return. They were good early, but just unfortunately weren't able to go with them after half time. It was a tough Old Scotch team to face there, especially when they're up and humming. So, Old Scotch, just probably the story of the season. They just keep on winning.
And again, a team to watch, right? Like they've jumped all the way to second spot. Old Brighton keep getting it done. Scotch are great. Zabs, we just saw won by 100-odd points. St Bede's Mentone have been good all year. St Kevin's sit 5th. DYLAN's just knocked off St Bede's. They're 6th. It's crazy. Good luck trying to pick who's going to win the flag from here. There's a lot to play out. And one more game over the weekend.
Yeah, a bit of a local clash as well. Parkdale Vultures, they could have had a big win, but some inaccuracy in front of goal, Lockie.
Yeah, 100%. That's unfortunately just the story of the contest. And Parkdale, once again, back on the winners list. They set up the win due to a strong first half, which was great. Shout out to Riley Bowles. He played his 50th game and played an absolute belter, so that was good to see. Hudson Wright as well, excellent through that midfield, kicking 2 goals and getting plenty of it. So Bo Morris are getting better as the season progresses, but just can't unfortunately bridge the gap at the moment, which is a bit disappointing for them.
And it just keeps Parkdale alive. They sit on 16 points. They're 3 games behind 4th spot at the moment. So obviously a lot of work to do. But again, if they can do something a little bit like Old Scotch and get on a run, you just never know. Let's talk about this ladder, Lockie. Old Brighton sit still a game clear just by that 1 point. They're on 32 points. 1 game clear of Old Scotch, Old Zabs, St Bede's, all on 28. 1 game further back to St Kevin's and DYLAN. So the top 6 still very much in the finals race. Only a game and a half back to University Blues on 18. Another half game to Parkdale. Another half game to Caulfield. And then Bo Morris bringing up the field. So With 7 rounds still to go as we hit the second bye, Lockie, we're really no closer to working out who's going to finish in the final 4.
Nah, definitely not. If you can decipher the table from here, you're a genius, because I still got no clue who's going to win it. But yeah, look, I think it's sort of the nature of the competition. One side wins one week, then they lose the next week, and everyone's beating each other. It's just so hard to decipher, as I said, but makes for a very entertaining competition.
And the other thing to consider, Sench, is at this time of the year, you've got kids who have been the best players in under-19s for most of the year, now getting some senior opportunities. So they step up, and that changes the dynamic at under-19 level as well.
We saw heaps of under-19s debuting, or they've played a couple games over the Tullamarine flu season.
Yeah,
so,
it's that time of the year, isn't it?
they're
Jai
all set.
Pugsley, I think, debuted for St Bede's and kicked 4.
Yeah, 4 goals. Yeah,
Great performance from him. And again, it just shows the gap, Matty, between playing seniors and 19s. Like the best under-19s kids can step up into the seniors and have an immediate impact.
Yeah, and we've seen that a couple of times at the Premier Division this season, that you've got new kids on the block, and they come in and they have an impact straight away and play really crucial hands for their side. So it's a great thing across all the levels of clubs that you can have that pathway for those kids to be able to progress through to a higher level and have an impact straight away. It's a great thing to see.
And Brayden, just to have the kids get a little bit of experience in the middle of the year, it might only be a couple of games just while other guys are out, as Senchi's mentioned with the Tullamarine flu, could then potentially go back and play finals in under-19s and get that experience of playing the big games and the cutthroat games and maybe winning a flag, and then they're ready to go the next year at senior level.
Yeah, exactly right. And we were actually talking to St Bernard's coach, Steve Alessio, before the game, and for a lot of coaches, it's about finding that right balance, ensuring they're still enjoying their footy, playing with their mates, but also giving them that taste of senior footy to see what it's about. And some kids might want to say, oh, look, I'm good enough, I enjoy it, I want to keep playing. But at that age where participation can drop off, it is so important to ensure that they are still enjoying their footy, especially at such a high level competition.
Yeah, and playing with their mates obviously helps make it a little bit stickier. They want to stick around a little bit longer and enjoy the company of their friends. Tips time. Let's go back and have a look at round 11. How'd you reckon you go, Lockie? How'd you go on the weekend?
I think I improved a little bit, but I'm still just seriously far behind. I need a miracle, I think, to win from here.
Well, you actually got 4 out of 5, which was a great performance. Unfortunately for you, Senchi also got 4 out of 5, so he maintains his 8-tip lead, 37-29.
Yeah, it's I mean, when you're tipping against someone like Sench, and it's tough enough to try and decipher who's going to win, but then when you've got him just nailing him, it's just it keeps me up at night.
Well, I think of the 8 tips, 7 of those are Old Scotch that he tipped when you didn't, so that's probably the difference between the two of you.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe I should just start jumping on them, or find my own team and maybe I can turn them into form.
Yeah, good luck even finding your own team. Who's the next best? It's impossible to work that out at the moment in Holmes Glen Under-19 Premier. Just a quick one before we let you go. The Big V Under-19 team playing this week against Goulburn Valley. That game live on VAFA TV and KTV from 11:15. That's going to be some good watching. There's some real talent there, Lockie.
Yeah, 100%. Really good to see how they'll actually shape up against a very tough outfit by the sounds of it. So there's oozes with talent, but talent's not enough. So hopefully they can get over the line there. And if they play their best footy, I'm sure they'll give it a good nudge.
Well said. Enjoy the game on Saturday. We will talk to you next week as we look ahead to this incredible Holmes Glen Under-19s competition and the run of the finals.
Thanks, boys. Take care.
Lockie Moyer joining us on For the Love of the Game. Next, we will wrap things up. We've got tips, we've got Ton Watch, we've got big bags. All next on For the Love of the Game. Keep up to date with everything that's happening around the VAFA by subscribing to our socials. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Has someone just taken a screamer or kicked goal of the year? Send us your best and we might share them around the league. Join in the fun with all the best pics, videos, stories, and reels from around the competition. They're all on VAFA socials. Search VAFA and VAFA Women's on your favourite platforms. This is For the Love of the Game. Time to talk Cench Watch and Cenchy shout-outs. What you got for us, Cench?
I want to start at Ajax and Old Ivanhoe on the weekend. So a few weeks back, I touched on Old Ivanhoe's young talent. There were 4 players on the ground that had 30 touches in that game. Jeffro Gunn, he is 19. Sasha Levine had 33, 19 also. 20-year-old Rowan McKenzie had 34, and 21-year-old rising star favourite as well, Ryder Mantello from last year. He also had 30. So 4 players under 21 all had 30. Head-to-head battle. Just thought it was worthy of a shout-out.
That's incredible. A couple of those have got Big V, been in Big
Correct.
V squads, yeah?
So look out on the socials. There'll definitely be a post on that. Over to Parkdale, another rising star, you could say. Ollie Green had one of the games of the year. He had 36 touches, 18 score involvements, 16 contested, 13 inside 50s, 10 tackles, 10 clearances,
Wow.
2 goal assists and a goal. Is that not... That's
unbelievable.
That's arguably the best stat line I've seen all year.
Wow.
And that's like you look at blokes like MATT FEWINGS, who you just spoke to, who had 50 touches. I reckon a game like this beats that for sure.
That's incredible. But last week, Senchi, you talked about this concept of Recruit of the Year. You mentioned a couple, and I think we threw up the Tom Gorell versus Matt Harvey debate, and asked us to come back and find out recruits who we think might be in the mix for Recruit of the Year at the various different levels. I'll start with Williamstown Premier Men's, and I'm going to say Jasper Russell from Old Haileybury, who's, I think, averaging 30 touches and 10 rebound 50s just every week, just keeps finding the football and racking them up.
Yeah, I'll go with Matt Harvey. He's the major ball winner in Premier B this year.
At Old Geelong?
Yeah, Old Geelong. Hard to go past him.
Yeah, for me, I'm going a bit lower. I'm going to the divisions. Division 2, in fact, and it's good to see he's in the Big V squad this weekend. This kid's going to be a star. Luca DiLallo. He's kicked more than 50 goals, I think, now for the season. It's just a great pickup. Sought more senior opportunities at Melbourne High School Old Boys, and he's delivered. A young fellow that was playing high-grade reserves in Premier Reserves, which is by no means feat a low level of footy, but he's gone in there and he's just excelled as well. Talking to Coach Sean Lester last week, what I love is learn to develop at that level, learn to adapt should be the better term, I think, because the footy's obviously not coming as clean as it might at Premier level, so here's a shout-out for mine.
Well, I'm going to stick with Prem B. In fact, I'm actually going to stick with Old Geelong rather as well. So essentially, when I see you, I immediately think Old Scotch. No, I'm going to stick with Old Geelong. I'm going to go Tom Gorell, who's the league's leading scorer in Prem B. He's kicked 40 goals for the campaign, eight clear of anybody else at the moment. And he kicked the season low 2. At the weekend, after kicking 9 against Williamstown CYMS the week prior. He is just guaranteed goals. And I mean, particularly given that Old Geelong have been a side that's been at the bottom of the table for most of the campaign, to be able to put together those sorts of numbers, remarkable from him. So no, he's my Recruit of the Year.
Let's talk big bags and ton watch thanks to Sharon. We'll start with big bags from across the weekend. And we had one double figure haul. We had a 10 kicked by Nick Code in the Swinburne University thirds. He booted 10. 9 for Luke Stubbs for Powerhouse in Division 2 men's. 8 for Evan Houlihan from Melbourne High School in the thirds. 8 also from Abby Connor from Old Scotch Reserves. So she was the leading goal kicker in the VAFA women's competition. She booted 8. And Matt Orchatil from Powerhouse also kicked 8 in the Powerhouse side on the weekend. We had 7 players kick 7 and 9 players kick 6 on the weekend, including Geordie Mifsud at Old Scotch. So that leads us to Ton Watch after week 12 of the season. 11 rounds for the Premier divisions. And it is Mitch Brown in front. He booted another 6 over the weekend for Parkdale Vultures. So he's up to 57 for the season. Just ticking along, going nicely. Luca DiLallo, your pick for the Recruit of the Year, booted 2. So he's hit the 50 as well. He's at 51 for Melbourne High School Old Boys. Patrick Carricker didn't play on the weekend, I don't think. He's still on 49. Rogan Kitts from Oakley Seniors. He booted 7. So he's jumped up to 48, right up into the mix again. James Stewart kicked a couple for Uni Blues. He's on 44. 1 clear of Will Hart on 43. Jai Pugsley kicked 4 on the weekend in his senior debut for St Bede's Mentone Tigers. He's up to 43 for the season. And then we have the Battle of the McIsaacs. We almost need a new segment, McIsaac Watch. Charlie and Will, both now on 42 goals apiece for Old Zabs. Will actually playing in the seniors. He booted 4 on the weekend. Charlie held to just 1.
No, that's remarkable that the both of them are playing in the same lineup together and kicking goals. That's a great story.
2 for Tommy Gorell from Old Geelong, your Recruit of the Year. He's also on 42, as is Will Snooks from Monash Blues on 42. So at the moment, it's Mitch Brown on 57. 6 goals clear of Luca DiLallo, and then another 2 goals back to Patrick Carricker. They're the top 3 for Ton Watch through round 12. For the women's competition, Geordie Mifsud, I mentioned, kicked 6. She's up to 28 for the season. Isabella Gietzman on 25. Georgia Harris now on 25. Mia Cowan up to 24. And Asher Price on 23 from Melbourne Uni Seniors. Well, that almost does us for today as we look ahead to Big V weekend. You gentlemen are both going to be involved in our coverage over the weekend. Our under-19s game kicks off against Goulburn Valley League at 11:15 on Saturday. It's going to run all day, straight from the under-19s into the Premier B to D3 game all afternoon, live on vafa.com.au and on Community TV. Gentlemen, what are you looking forward to?
Oh, I'm just personally just looking forward to the spectacle. There's something always quite magical about the Big V jumper running around on the ground. It was terrific earlier in the season against the Adelaide Footy League, and I'm looking forward to seeing it back out there this weekend. it's just the occasion for me more than anything else.
Yeah, I'm just hoping we go to extra time again like last season.
Not too much to ask.
Just come on, let's rig the result a bit. But no, I just hope the weather holds off, especially, and even if it doesn't, we just get a cracking game of footy that showcases the ability of these young men that are going to take part in the Premier B to D3 and the 19s games, because we just don't know who might be watching these games. We've seen guys, the Goulburn Valley actually played against the Ovens of Murray a few years ago, and Joe Richards, who now at Port Adelaide, that's how he was picked up. So you just never know.
You're the local footy expert. Who are you tipping?
Oh, got to cheer for the locals, don't we?
Yeah.
I haven't actually seen the Goulburn Valley lineup, but from what I remember, having worked in the region, like, don't be surprised if you see some of their under-19s players and thinks, why are you not playing in the men's game? They do have some big boys, the country lads, but I reckon it'll just be a cracking game of footy.
What are you expecting, Senchi?
2 big V dubs. Yeah. Lock it in.
Under-19 team stacked full of talent. We've talked about it earlier. And that Prem B to D3 team, as we said, we've got some blokes there that are well capable of playing in that senior lineup, like a MATT FEWINGS.
Yeah. Jeffro Gunn's just been named in the Premier B to Div 3 side, so he won't play in the 19s, which,
shows the depth of talent.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Can't wait for that. So 11:15 on Saturday. It's the under-19s into the Prem B to D3 game immediately after. You'll see it right here, live on vafa.com.au and on Community TV. That wraps it up this week for the love of the game. We'll be back next week to review Big V weekend, look ahead to week 13 of action, and it's all right here for the love of the game.